evening, I'm Katie Wilson and you're watching AnewZ. Let's see your headlines. Israel and the US have recalled their delegations from Gaza ceasefire talks. Iran and the European Three met for another round of nuclear talks in Istanbul. Thailand Cambodia fighting enters the second day, leaving at least 20 people dead. The United States and Israel have recalled their delegations from Gaza ceasefire talks in Doha. US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff accused Hamas of failing to act in good faith, saying alternative options to secure the return of Israeli hostages are being considered. In response, Hamas expressed surprise at Witkoff's remarks, claiming its position had been welcomed by mediators and had opened the door to a comprehensive agreement. Gaza ceasefire talks are expected to resume next week, according to Egyptian media. Well, our reporter Blake Sifton has the latest from Tel Aviv.
U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, has said that the United States is recalling its negotiators from the Gaza ceasefire talks underway in Qatar over what he called the selfishness of Hamas, and said that the group is not acting in good faith. Instead, Witkoff said that the United States would pursue alternative options in order to win the release of the Israeli hostages still held captive in Gaza. What those alternative options may be is not clear at this stage. Some have expressed concern that perhaps the Gaza ceasefire talks are collapsing. Others view this as merely a setback, and still others believe that this may only be a negotiating tactic by the Americans and Israeli negotiators. Just last night, Tuesday, an Israeli official told local media that the talks have not collapsed, that despite Hamas's last proposal being unhelpful, progress is still being made. We understand that the talks are stuck on 2 points at the moment. One of which is that Hamas is insisting on the release of 200 Palestinian prisoners who were jailed with life sentences in exchange for the 10 living Israeli hostages who would be released in this deal. That number is far too high for Israeli negotiators. However, mediators have said that that number is perhaps only an opening bid and the sides can come together on an eventual number. The other point of contention is where Israeli soldiers will redeploy to during a ceasefire. Israel has said it wants to keep its forces 1.2 kilometers into Gaza. Hamas only wants them 1 kilometer deep into Gaza. However, mediators have said that the two sides are not that far apart and that a solution may be workable. Meanwhile, as the humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to degenerate and starvation across the Strip continues to spread, according to aid organizations, pressure is mounting on Israel to act, with the leaders of France, the UK, and Germany holding an emergency call on Friday on ways to stop the fighting, to stop the war, and to get more food into Gaza. Blake Sifton for AnewZ, Tel Aviv.
Well, Israeli protesters took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Thursday, calling for an end to the war in Gaza and the release of hostages.
Crowds filled the streets in Tel Aviv as tens of thousands of people protested on Thursday, urging the Israeli government to make a deal with Hamas to end the war in Gaza. The demonstrations come as both Israel and the United States pulled their delegations from ongoing ceasefire negotiations for further consultations. Protesters are continuing to demand the immediate return of hostages held by Hamas.
So tonight we are here because we're asking our government and Hamas end this war, bring all of the hostages back at one deal at once, bring all of the soldiers home, finish this war. We know that the negotiation is a little bit stuck somewhere, and we're asking all of the sides, please do the right thing, sit down, talk about it. Everything is solvable. Please finish the war. It's been enough. It's enough. We need this war to end. We need our lives back.
I am here to ask for the hostages to come back home. Gaza is not their place. Their place is nearby their families. This is the first thing. The second thing is to finish the war, because the hostages will not come back home until the war will be finished.
Meanwhile, several countries are urging for an end to the war to alleviate humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip.
France will become the first G7 country to officially recognise a Palestinian state. President Emmanuel Macron confirmed the move will be announced at the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Home to Europe's largest Jewish and Muslim communities, France will become the first major Western country to recognise a Palestinian state. French President Emmanuel Macron made the announcement in a post on X, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and massive humanitarian aid for its people. Macron will make his decision official in September at the United Nations General Assembly, with the hope of bringing peace to the region. Palestinian officials welcome Macron's decision, calling it a step towards self-determination. A letter from Macron to Palestinian Authority President confirmed the recognition and outlined a vision for demilitarized Palestine that coexists with Israel. But Israel has reacted angrily. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the move a reward for terror, referencing the Hamas-led 7th of October attacks that killed 1,200 people. He warned a Palestinian state under current conditions would threaten Israel's security. The United States has also condemned the decision. Secretary of State Marco Rubio labeled it reckless, saying it empowers Hamas and undermines prospects for peace. Elsewhere, the move has been praised. Saudi Arabia said France's recognition affirms international consensus on the Palestinian cause, and Hamas called it a positive step. As the conflict continues, aid agencies are warning of mass starvation amid ongoing restrictions on access to food and medical supplies. However, France's announcement is being seen as a diplomatic turning point, one that could reshape the West's approach to the conflict.
Well, President Trump dismissed France's plan to recognise a Palestinian state. Trump told reporters at the White House on Friday that Macron's statement didn't carry weight.
Macron said that yesterday.
Look, he's a different kind of a guy. He's okay. He's a team player, pretty much. But here's the good news: what he says doesn't matter. You know, it's not going to change anything.
So how could he
Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy. I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
Iran and the E3, that's France, Britain and Germany, have concluded nuclear talks in Istanbul. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister called the meeting serious, frank and detailed, with both sides exchanging proposals on sanctions relief and nuclear commitments. Iran reaffirmed its rejection of the snapback mechanism and cautioned against any move to reinstate UN sanctions. Although no breakthrough was reached, both sides agreed to continue talks in the coming weeks. Our Iran correspondent Taraz Shiralilu has more on that from Tehran.
Delegates from Iran, France, Germany, and the UK, plus EU, started their negotiations on Tehran's nuclear program in Istanbul amid rising tensions after the European Troika warned it may apply for fast return of UN sanctions in October if a deal is not reached by end of August. Prior to today's crucial meeting, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that Iran will continue its policy of uranium enrichment capability and will stress this policy in Istanbul discussions too. Also, Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Gharibabadi said in New York yesterday that the talks with the European powers will remain inconclusive if they keep coordinating their policy with the US in terms of demanding zero enrichment and a return of sanctions. The UN sanctions were terminated in 2015 by Resolution 2231, endorsing the JCPOA nuclear agreement reached the same year in Vienna between Iran on one side and the E3 plus China, Russia, and the US on the other side. On the eve of Istanbul talks, there were unconfirmed media reports suggesting that the E3 side will propose a 6-month extension in the 18th October deadline for reimposing of UN sanctions. Iranian and European negotiators last met in mid-May in Istanbul to discuss Tehran's nuclear program amid separate mediated talks between Tehran and Washington, which were disrupted by the Israeli-US war on Iran a month later in June. Turaj Shiralilu reporting for AnewZ TV, Tehran.
Fierce fighting between Thailand and Cambodia along their disputed border has entered a second day, leaving at least 20 people dead. It comes as Malaysia's Prime Minister said that both countries have agreed to a ceasefire.
Deadly clashes between Thailand and Cambodia have entered a second day, marking the worst fighting between the neighbours in over 10 years. Heavy artillery and rocket fire have been reported at 12 locations along the disputed border. More than 15 people have died so far, mostly civilians. Over 120,000 people on both sides have been displaced by the ongoing conflict. Thailand's foreign ministry says it wants a peaceful, bilateral solution. Cambodia accuses Thailand of aggressive attacks, including bombing civilian areas. Thailand denies these claims and says Cambodia fired first. The military balance favours Thailand. It has more than 360,000 personnel and advanced equipment. Cambodia's forces are smaller, with around 124,000 troops and limited air power. This round of fighting is more intense. Cambodia reportedly fired long-range artillery-grade rockets. Thailand faces accusations of using cluster bombs, a type of weapon banned in many countries because they scatter small explosive submunitions over a wide area. The conflict's roots go back to colonial-era borders drawn by French authorities in 1907. At that time, Thailand, then Siam, was pressured by France to sign a treaty that included a map placing the ancient Preah Vihear temple inside Cambodian territory. Cambodia views this map as legally binding and has used it to support its claims. Thailand disputes the map's accuracy and the treaty's validity, saying it was signed under pressure and never fully approved. Tensions rose sharply in 2008 after Cambodia listed the temple as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This triggered strong nationalist backlash in Thailand. That year, Thai soldiers reportedly moved near a disputed pagoda close to the temple. Cambodia claims this land, but Thailand says the border there was never fully marked. The dispute stems from a 1962 International Court of Justice ruling. The court awarded ownership of the temple to Cambodia by a 9-3 vote. Since then, clashes have happened sporadically, causing casualties on both sides. The latest escalation began in May, after a Cambodian soldier was killed during a border skirmish. Both countries have since imposed trade bans, withdrawn ambassadors, and reinforced their military presence. China has offered to mediate. Foreign Minister Wang Yi described the conflict as rooted in the legacy of Western colonialism. He urged both countries to resolve their differences peacefully to maintain regional stability. Malaysia has proposed a ceasefire plan as ASEAN chair, which Cambodia accepted. Thailand, which had earlier rejected third-party mediation from the US and China, said it agrees in principle to Malaysia's offer, but warned that continued Cambodian attacks undermine the possibility of a truce.
A tropical storm in the Philippines has left at least 25 people dead. Days of heavy rain triggered floods and landslides across several provinces.
At least 25 people have been killed in the northern Philippines after a week of heavy rains brought by Typhoon Komay. The storm downed power lines and triggered landslides and flooding across several provinces after intensifying the southwest monsoon. Residents say the flooding has disrupted local businesses and hurt their livelihoods.
It is a struggle, and our business has been weak because the floods made it less accessible, although our clients have found a way and have parked their vehicles on the other side. If someone needs our help, we can still help them, and if we don't open shop, then we don't have the money to eat or pay rent.
The country's disaster agency says damage to agriculture and infrastructure has reached an estimated $73 million. With winds reaching 120 kilometres per hour, Komay forced the closure of schools and government offices before weakening into a tropical storm after crossing the mountains and exiting Luzon Island. Nearly 70 flights were cancelled due to the combined impact of the typhoon and the southwest monsoon, which continues to bring heavy rainfall. Komay is the fifth tropical cyclone to hit the Philippines this year, a country that typically experiences around 20 typhoons annually.
To Italy now, where emergency teams are battling another wildfire as flames spread dangerously close to homes and farmland overnight. It's the latest in a series of blazes hitting southern Europe during an intense summer heat wave.
A fast-moving wildfire broke out overnight between Partinico and San Giuseppe Giotto in Sicily, threatening homes and farmland on Italy's southern island. Flames reached the edges of some residential neighbourhoods, with cultivated land also reportedly damaged. Fire crews and emergency vehicles were deployed through the night, battling intense heat and smoke as the blaze spread across forested areas. The incident follows another fire near Palermo just a day earlier, highlighting growing concerns over wildfire activity in the region. The outbreak comes as parts of Europe face extreme heat, with wildfires burning large areas of land across the continent this year.
Wildfires are spreading rapidly across Turkey's Antalya region, prompting large-scale emergency efforts. Authorities have already evacuated villages and deployed aircrafts to fight the flames. Two separate fires broke out across the region, with land and air operations underway to contain them. Firefighting planes and helicopters are assisting efforts on the ground. As a precaution, residents from 14 villages have been evacuated. Turkey's Ministry of Emergency Situations is operating in enhanced mode as conditions remain challenging. Now, on AnewZ, an exclusive interview with Turkey's Minister of National Defence, Yaşar Güler. Speaking from the International Defence Industry Fair in Istanbul, he shares his insights on how Turkey's defence industry is transforming regional dynamics and boosting economic power across the Turkic world.
IDF, of course, does not only appeal to Turkey, it addresses the entire Turkic world. This is our shared pride and honour. Therefore, everyone finds something valuable here for themselves.
Turkey is showcasing impressive achievements at IDEF, especially through its defence industry. How can Turkey's growing defence sector contribute not only to national security, but also to economic influence across the region?
Of course, this isn't just about national defence. Nowadays, the defence industry also represents serious economic power. So hopefully all these products will bring economic returns. This will be a major financial resource for the Republic of Turkey.
Well, AnewZ brings you another exclusive interview from IDEF 2025, this time with Turkey's Minister of Industry and Technology, Mehmet Fatih Kacı. From drones technology to missile systems, he outlines how Turkey's national innovation drive is propelling the country into the global defence spotlight.
İDEF dünyanın en önemli savunma sanayi etkinliklerinden biri haline geldi.
IDEF has become one of the world's most important defense industry events because Turkey has become one of the world's leading defense industry nations, especially over the past 23 years. Under the leadership of our President Erdogan, we have carried Turkey into the Super League through the National Technology Initiative. From aerial vehicles to land platforms, naval systems to satellite systems, air defense to missile systems, Turkey is advancing its domestic and national capabilities to the highest level across all areas. IDEF is the showcase of that progress. At IDEF, we are hosting over 1,000 delegates. International guests are here to experience the Turkish defense industry and explore the technologies of the future. Because the key feature of the Turkish defense industry is this: we focus on innovative, paradigm-shifting fields. Every project we are working on today is not for yesterday, but for tomorrow. We will continue on this path. From here, I send my heartfelt greetings to our brother nation, Azerbaijan. As we always say, one nation, two states. We won't stop. We'll keep moving forward.
Bir millet, iki devlet durmak.
The president of Kazakhstan is heading to Turkey for an official visit. The leaders of both countries will meet on July 29th for high-level talks in Ankara to discuss regional ties and strategic cooperation. According to Kazakhstan's presidential office, the visit will focus on strengthening the strategic partnership between the two countries. The presidents will also chair the 5th meeting of the High-Level Strategic Cooperation Council, a key platform for deepening political, economic and cultural cooperation. Now, Tbilisi's mayor remains tight-lipped about whether he will run again in the upcoming local elections, but he's already setting the tone for the campaign. From promises of victory to sharp criticism of Georgia's international partners, he has outlined both his political vision and his frustrations. Our Georgia correspondent Nini Nikolaishvili has more from Tbilisi.
Tbilisi mayor and Georgian Dream's Secretary General Kaha Kalze has announced that the ruling party is actively preparing for upcoming local elections, with the candidate nominations set for August. While stopping short of officially confirming his own candidacy, Kalze said that he intends to participate in upcoming elections and insisted that Georgian Dream will secure 100% victory in every municipality, city and district. He dismissed questions about potential rivals as irrelevant, saying that opposition can't even agree among themselves and much of it is boycotting upcoming elections. I don't want to talk about opposition. It does not matter who runs and how, he said, adding that he prefers to focus on issues affecting Tbilisi residents. Meanwhile, Kalze launched a sharp attack on EU ambassador to Georgia, Pavel Herchinsky. Responding to Herchinsky's recent call for de-escalation, the release of political prisoners and open dialogue, Kalze accused him of political interference and spreading propaganda. He said that internal instability in Georgia is caused of European bureaucracy and its efforts to influence domestic issues and affairs. He compared recent statements by the EU ambassador to the previous ones, particularly those that he believes to encourage voters to reject the ruling party, and framed the EU stance as an attempt to fuel polarization. They did not like the outcome of October 26 vote, and now they are using every method to provoke destabilization, declared Kalze, adding that Russia remains a threat, but Western actors are also using Georgia for their own interests under the pretext of democracy. As the elections campaign nears its active phase, Kalze's dual message is clear. Georgian Dream is prepared to win decisively, and foreign critics, especially from the European Union, will not be tolerated. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Batumi. AnewZ.
The multinational military exercise Agile Spirit 2025 has begun in Georgia on Friday, with high-level defence officials from NATO, the EU and partner nations attending the opening ceremony. The exercise opened at the NATO-Georgia Joint Training and Evaluation Centre, co-led by senior Georgian and US commanders. The event gathered high-level representatives from NATO, the EU and foreign defence missions. The drills, which are also taking place in Turkey, involve troops from 11 countries in 2 multinational battalions. They aim to boost combat readiness, coordination and joint operational capabilities among allied and partner forces. Well, joining us now to discuss the latest developments from Georgia is political analyst Dr. Vakhtang Maisaya. Thank you for being with us. Now, how likely is it that this growing Turkey-Georgia military cooperation could lead to some form of defence guarantee for Georgia?
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for having me to your audience. First of all, I mentioned that these any drills and any just about exercise will also just increase compatibilities to defense realities and defense posture to the Georgia at any level, at regional, national, and even global level. It's also fostered to incorporate Georgia defense forces into the global just about stability promotions and peace conduct. And of course, I would like to mention that it's also just make tight Georgian-NATO cooperation. Unfortunately, I would mention that neither the defense minister and nor so-called president of Georgia, unfortunately, they didn't just about attend this most important just about exercise in Georgia. It's a great shame. It's a great shame to the Georgian just about so-called leadership. And I guess I do hope that nearest future this cooperation will be more increased. As I know, just about in September, October, also just scheduled another just about exercise of NATO spirit in ages of the NATO spirit, PFP spirit, which also just promote the Georgians' compatibilities to the NATO's military standards and objectives, mission which Georgia just tried to obtain, at least from the constitutional clause of Article 78. So I do hope that this, yes.
So you've mentioned NATO a few times there. Could this defence partnership with Turkey provide Georgia with indirect protection from NATO? Obviously, Georgia isn't yet a NATO member.
Well, it's just about fostering just about cooperation at regional level, because involvement of the just about the military units from Turkey, from Azerbaijan, even just about NATO country, just about nations, will also just fostering this so-called cooperative security. It's also effect on Georgian defense and strategic just about incentive of protection of any military threats, not only just about conventional, but mainly from military threats, and this which nowadays our region faces for several times. So this is more important. This Georgia and Turkey military cooperation, you know, just Turkey is a member of the NATO country, and Georgia also aspires to become as a NATO member country. This is also just about strategic partner and NATO member, just about drill and engagements in joint collaboration, for sure just about increase this military defense capability of our nation.
Thank you very much for your insights and for joining us on the programme.
Thank you very much.
Now, Iran has successfully launched a new satellite into space with help from Russia. The move is likely to draw international attention as cooperation between the two countries continues to deepen. A Russian rocket lifted off from the Vostochny Cosmodrome on Friday, carrying Iran's satellite into orbit. Built by Iran's space agency, the satellite is expected to boost the country's telecommunications network. The launch also included 2 Russian satellites to monitor space weather and several smaller devices to track ships, planes and capture images of Earth. Now, tragic details have surfaced about the downing of an Azal passenger jet near Grozny last December. A new investigation reveals a series of critical military errors, misidentifications and command decisions that led to the strike, and a possible cover-up. Here's the full breakdown of how it unfolded.
New details have emerged regarding to the Azal Embraer 190 flight, which was shot down by Russian Air Defense Forces on December 25, 2024. Minval Politica shared the operational chronology of the strike. A military chain of command, radar tracking, protocols, and orders lead to the downing of the plane, killing 38 of the 67 people on board. On that day, Azal Embraer 190 flight was en route from Baku to Grozny. However, hours before the takeoff, at 03:26 across Russia's North Caucasus Federal District, a drone threat alert was declared. Colonel Gennady Eremenko passed the alert to Lieutenant Colonel Nikolai Orliansky from the 51st Air Defense Division. At 8:05, a higher-level carpet warning plan was introduced in North Ossetia Alania. That meant the airspace was restricted to military aircrafts only. Minutes later, Major General Alexander Tolopilo expanded this no-fly zone to a 50-kilometer radius around Grozny Airport. Embraer 190 was already in that zone, however no warnings issued. Radar data shows that the Azal flight was being tracked reliably until 0809, but as it began its descent into Grozny, radar contact was briefly lost. For 4 crucial minutes, between 8:09 and 8:13, the plane was invisible to Russian air defense systems. At 0812, a Panzer S air defense crew stationed near Grozny reported a small object in the sky, assumed to be a drone. Based on this mistaken assumption, and without radar confirmation, Major General Tolopilo issued a direct phone call to Colonel Orliansky of the 51st Air Defense Division, ordering to destroy the target. The order was relayed to Captain Dmitry Palachiuk. At 8:13:27, the first missile was launched. 21 seconds later, the second followed. Both struck the civilian aircraft, heavily damaging it. According to internal documents cited by Minval Politica, Major General Tolopilo later distorted radar and missile logs, falsely claiming the weapons self-destructed in flight. If the commander's accounts are true, the decision to strike was made without considering the lost radar contact with the Embraer 190. Despite the loss of civilian lives, no independent investigation followed. Tolopilo was not dismissed or prosecuted, but rather reassigned to a new post in Russia's Eastern Military District. As of now, no one has been held accountable for the incident.
Kazakhstan is urging countries bordering the Caspian Sea to unite efforts to save the Caspian, where water levels have been falling since the early 2000s. Kazakhstan's Prime Minister warned that scientists' forecasts for the Caspian Sea are alarming and called for decisive, coordinated action to protect this unique water body. He highlighted regional initiatives in Central Asia, including the creation of a Caspian Sea Research Institute, new monitoring centres and joint programmes to preserve the fragile ecosystem. He stressed that Central Asian nations are ready to cooperate on environmental challenges. That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and have a lovely evening.